What was the incident in your high school? A girl in her final year got pregnant and was hiding it from her parents. She was 18 at the time though. She went to the counselor, qualified clinical psychologist who was helping her through it. The counselor walked her through all of her options and did what she was supposed to do. The girl, I think possibly in denial, carried the baby to quite far along but then wanted out. She was also starving herself. Long story short, I also can't remember all the exact details. She apparently went to a dodgy clinic where she convinced them she was much earlier in the pregnancy, guessing they did no tests and they gave her abortions pills or something like that. Like I said, can't remember the exact details, so don't crucify me. She started profusely bleeding in class the next day and was rushed to hospital. The baby survived for about 4 hours and then passed away. Obviously by his point her parents were there. Upon questioning, she named out school counselor and said that she had forced her to have an abortion. This whole case went to court. Our poor school counselor could not say anything or defend herself publicly until the case was done. We had reporters outside our school gates for ages. It all came out at the end that the girl had lied and the counselor was completely innocent and had just done what she was supposed to do and had offered the girl all the information and advice for her to make an informed decision. I was amazed at how professional the counselor was and how she did everything by the book when it came to speaking about her client. Anyway, that was crazy. Went to a Catholic high school. The chapel was on the basement level, very secluded, and always left unlocked so students could go pray. No one ever did. One day a couple of students went in there to have sex on the altar. Turns out they ended up trying anal and the girl shit all over the altar. The chapel was locked after that. We had a lot of other incidents but that was the one we can laugh about. Holy shit. Ours was a sad one. Our boys' basketball team was traveling home from a game in inclement weather. The van caught some slush and lost control into the path of an oncoming tractor trailer. The coach was driving and survived. He lost his wife and 7 students. A very sad tragedy. A football player with the last name Parham got punished for some shit and was no longer allowed to walk the stage for graduation. One day, a friend of his pulled up in a truck outside of the cafeteria during lunch, slammed on the brakes, jumped out, and proceeded to sprint inside. He streaked through half the cafeteria with a Spider-Man mask on and Free Parham painted on his bare ass. Staff tried to grab him and stop him, and despite him literally slipping on a piece of food and falling, he escaped valiantly, as any hero should. Eventually, Parham was once again allowed to walk the stage, although I'm sure the stunt wasn't the only reason for it. So this happened yesterday and it was pretty wild for a Canadian school. At the end of the day there was a police car at the front of the school. Someone said they saw a kid get arrested when they went to the washroom. At the end of the day, a cop and the principal were standing at both back passenger windows talking to someone inside. We all just assumed that someone was getting arrested for selling drugs or something. The next day my homeroom teacher told us between 3rd and 4th period, the 2 afternoon periods in Canada, a former student who was about 20 years old blended in with students and snuck into the school hallways. He wandered through the hallways stealing from unlocked lockers and actually stole about 10 laptops from teachers' classrooms somehow. They ended up catching him at the Tim Hortons down the road. Not sure what's gonna happen to him, but someone said his mom was his getaway vehicle a couple blocks down the road. He just had to stop at Timmy's first. Only in Canada do people have to stop for a coffee and a donut mid-robbery. I didn't transfer in until after it happened, but I had a classmate who was in the room when it happened. Our 9th grade year 1989-1990. One of the guys in the theater drama class had been threatening suicide and to hurt friends and classmates. She and all her friends went to the teachers and principal, but were told they could do nothing because he had no history and therefore, he had to do something first. He did. Walked in mid-class. Took the entire room including my friend and her friends who had reported his threats hostage. Brandished the gun around repeatedly. Then shot one of their mutual friends who was trying to talk him down. Kid lost his ear, but not his life. Thankfully, she was still giving legal depositions 2 years later when I met her, which is how I heard the story. I went to a private school where you weren't allowed to have your phone on you. One day the vice principal bursts into a classroom and says in a panic, "Quick, I need to use someone's phone." 10 kids got detention and their phones confiscated. Screw you, Mr. Kiefer. A girl was forced into intimate relations with multiple people and the school covered it up by expelling her and confiscated the video evidence of it happening. 2 years later she sued and won. This was in 2016. Some boys in the saxophone section of marching band made a Christmas card featuring them nude except for Santa hats and their sax covering their sax. They distributed to the whole band, which at our school was a pretty large number of people. School tried to confiscate them for being lewd, but of course they couldn't get them all. Besides, people had camera phones and Facebook. End of senior year, some kid was caught on video having sex with his freshman girlfriend in an abandoned stairwell. Everyone saw the video and talked about it for weeks. I think he was charged with sexual assault and was not able to graduate. Similar incident at my school. Teacher went through a kid's phone and found naked pics of his girlfriend. He was 18 and she was 15. Cops got involved. They made him register as a sex offender. He killed himself 2 years after it. Funny enough, few years later the teacher got busted cause he saved all the pics from the phone. 2 guys in my year decided to bring about 50 cabbages into school and start a cabbage fight in the science corridor. All hell broke loose and cabbage leaves everywhere. About 100 students joined in. Now you know who's the math problem guy. Someone called in a bomb threat to my middle school and elementary school. Instead of evacuating both buildings, we were in lockdown for 3 hours and they condensed all of us in the middle school. We later evacuated to the high school only like 300 feet away and were stuck there for hours because our parents couldn't get to us. All of our phones were taken because they didn't want us giving information, so there were like 700 white moms in Suburban simultaneously having a heart attack trying to get to the school. We learned later they called this into almost every school in the area. There was a robbery at a Bank of America while the cops were preoccupied. Not high school, but I remember in elementary school, we got put on lockdown because someone thought there was a rabid fox on the field. It was a fat orange cat. We never had a school camp, because the last time they held one, 3 students got pregnant. That's some camp. High School 1. Jostens They Make Rings and Yearbooks was on campus to sell us our class rings. They had a Chicago Bears Super Bowl ring along with other famous rings they made. Somebody stole the Super Bowl ring. We were all called into an assembly to find the ring. The Jostens guy was close to tears. The ring was found in the hallway after the assembly was let out. High School 2. A couple girls got in a fight at the bus stop. One of them cut the other up with a box cutter, and then tossed battery acid on her. 2 girls were fighting over boy. They were in the bathroom, in the same stall. While they were fighting, one of the girls took out a pair of scissors and stabbed the other in the eye. The girl who stabbed her was expelled and the other girl turned out to be just fine and went back to school like everything was normal. The creepy part was, my classroom was the closest one to the bathroom and we didn't hear anything. We just saw the cops. It creeps me out to think it happened a couple feet away from me. My high school was recently in the news because a virus got into our school system and held the school's data at ransom for $300,000. Another school in the district had a student come to an assembly dressed in a KKK hood, so we all had to have a huge assembly and there were a bunch of posters around school about what to do if you feel discriminated against. Being racist aside, what the was he thinking? Somebody threw a dead deer into the quad. I think they only got in trouble because they broke some lights on the roof while doing it. Which guy takes massive shit off the top floor of a massive stairwell? Same stairwell. Someone drops a pressurized can of soda cracking open a teacher's skull. Someone brought in a decommissioned WW1 authentic stick grenade. The entire school was evacuated onto 1 yard for 4 hours while bomb squad were on their way. Our school's counselor who took kids out of lessons to help with low self-esteem committed suicide. That one's a bit sad, to be honest. Drama teacher got arrested for convincing 2 14-year-old students to have sex while he watched, and he still works there. And a music teacher got sacked for coming in drunk. Twice. I love lower class Britain. One time this kid I was friends with brought this hot sauce called Dar Bomb 1.5 million Scoville units. Hotter than hell to high school and let a bunch of kids try it during lunch. I mean at least 30 kids. Some kids really started freaking out because that shit is ridiculously hot. Like you're supposed to add 1 or 2 drops to a big batch of chili to make it spicy. Some were trying to show off and took a swig of it and ended up vomiting everywhere from the heat. Panic. Multiple kids had to go to the nurse and be sent home because they way overdid it. Although I think most just really had no idea what a Scoville unit was or that they made hot sauce that was that ridiculously hot. It was chaos. I tried it as well, a dime-size amount, and I couldn't concentrate on anything but chugging milk. And I'm really good with spicy foods. Finally the principal came on the intercom and said, whoever brought the hot sauce, please just stop. My friend got into some pretty big trouble for that one. That's the principal's sound of defeat.